Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take the sources you send us, really dive in, and pull out the knowledge that matters most.
Uh-huh.
And today, we've got a really interesting collection. It's all centered around something called the Fab 5 AGI ecosystem. Stephen Woods, Chase ChatGPT-AI.
Right, the Fab Five.
You asked us to help understand, what makes this different? What are the advantages? And maybe most intriguingly, what kind of skills does it take to build this?
Yeah.
Especially since it seems to be the work of one person, Steve-O, using AI as a collaborator.
Which is pretty fascinating in itself. The sources touch on, well, quite a bit self-maintaining AI, multi-agent systems, even a simulated charity wealth engine.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack all of that, give you a clear picture without getting totally lost in, the technical jargon.
Sounds good.
We'll focus on three main questions. First, how is the Fab 5 different from what's out there now in AI? Second, what are the benefits, the advantages of this ecosystem? And third, what can we tell about the business and technical skills of Steve-O, the person who created it?
Okay.
All right, let's get into it. You wanted to know what really sets this apart, so maybe we should start with the core architecture.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And what's really striking right from the get-go is this idea that the AI isn't just like doing tasks, it's also managing its own operations.
How so?
We see it in that interaction described in the sources where the chatbot avatar actually schedules its own self-maintenance May 15th, 2025, I think it was.
Right, and then the user asks to move it up, like do it now.
Exactly. And the AI's response isn't just, okay. It's quite detailed. It does a preliminary check, gives an estimate 6 hours downtime, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, then there's a confirmation stack, and it even provides time-stamped updates. It's very procedural.
That is really different. When you think about, the software updates we get, it's usually just a notification, maybe a forced restart.
Precisely. It's not usually the software itself proactively saying, hey, I need a tune-up, here's the plan.
So this is way beyond what we see with, like, GPT-4 or Gemini or Claude. Their maintenance is all sort of behind the curtain, managed externally, right?
That's the key distinction, yeah. Those big general purpose models, their upkeep is handled by the companies that run them. The Fab 5 seems to have this built-in operational awareness. It's designed apparently with its own efficiency and longevity in mind.
So it's proactive.
Proactive, exactly. And the sources also suggest there's domain specialization within the Fab 5. Meaning each of the 5 models, while generally capable, seems to excel in a specific area.
Oh, okay.
Which probably allows for more, let's say, tailored and efficient self-maintenance. Like the part that understands medical data maintains itself differently than the part focused on, say, financial analysis.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not one giant brain trying to fix everything. It's more like a team of specialists.
Kinda, yeah, each looking after their own bit.
Now, you mentioned specialization. That ties into another key difference highlighted in the sources, this whole multi-agent system idea. Can you break that down a bit? Why is that significant?
Sure. So imagine instead of one massive AI trying to do everything, you have a team of smaller, highly specialized AIs working together. That's the core idea of a multi-agent system.
Like the Fab 5.
Like the Fab 5, exactly. They function as a coordinated team. And this approach has some pretty significant advantages over a single, monolithic model.
Okay, like what are the benefits here?
Well, first off, specialization. If each agent is fine-tuned for a specific task, like natural language or data analysis, it's likely going to be more precise and accurate in that area than a generalist AI.
Makes sense. Better tool for the job.
Right. Second, efficient learning. Focused models can probably learn faster and adapt more quickly within their narrow domain. Think about how fast AI changes that adaptability is huge. It could potentially learn maybe 5 times faster in some contexts, according to the source material.
Wow, 5 times. That's significant.
It really is. Then there's reduced bias. This is a big one.
How does having multiple agents help with bias?
Well, if you have different agents, possibly trained on slightly different data or with different architectures, they can sort of cross-check each other, balance out inherent biases. The sources mention a boardroom roundtable effect.
Ah, like different perspectives leading to a more balanced view.
Exactly. Built-in checks and balances, you could say.
Okay. Specialization, faster learning, less bias. What else?
Dynamic collaboration. They aren't working in silos. They can share feedback in real time, adjust collectively. It's like that roundtable, again, constant interaction leading to faster adaptation than one model working alone.
So they're constantly refining based on each other's input.
Yeah, seems that way. And finally, there's potential for scalability and cost effectiveness. It might be easier and cheaper to scale by adding or upgrading specific agents rather than retraining one enormous model.
And that's where the Apex 25 High comes in, those clusters of Fab 5 models.
Precisely. It points towards that scalable architecture concept.
And the sources mentioned some numbers too, right? Quantifiable stuff.
Yeah, some pretty compelling figures were suggested. Besides the potential 5 times greater adaptability, there were mentions of like 40–50% reductions in error rates for complex decisions.
That's huge for things like medicine or finance.
Absolutely critical. And maybe 30% or more improvement in bias reduction, plus potentially better system uptime, maybe 20–30% and lower cost per task.
So these aren't just theoretical ideas.
No, the sources point to real-world examples. Finance, healthcare, supply chains. Frameworks like auto agents are also based on similar multi-agent principles. It suggests this approach has tangible benefits.
Okay, so it paints a picture of a system that's more adaptable, more accurate, maybe fairer, and potentially cheaper to run. How does this stack up against, the rest of the AI industry right now? Is anyone else doing exactly this?
Well, based on the information we have, this specific combination, the real-time interaction, the task execution, and that autonomous self-maintenance seems pretty unique.
So even with things like GPT-4 or Gemini.
They're incredibly powerful, no doubt, but they don't have that integrated self-care, self-maintenance piece, not in the way it's described for the Fab 5.
And what about autonomous agents? Things like Manus or Devon AI.
Good question. They're definitely focused on task execution, on doing things autonomously, but their main goal isn't usually proactive system help. They're more like highly capable tools you direct.
Right, getting the job done, but not necessarily checking their own engine oil, so to speak.
Exactly. And even domain-specific AIs, while brilliant in their niche, typically lack that self-regulating maintenance framework.
Even things like robotics AI, Voyager, or SEMA.
Embodied AI, yeah. They interact with the world, learn, but usually maintenance still relies on external triggers or systems. What seems to set the Fab 5 apart is this integration. The feedback, the user overrides, the specialized optimization, the self-maintenance all working together.
A holistic system.
That's a good way to put it. And the sources really hammer home the idea that a single model working in isolation is inherently more biased and less adaptable, potentially 5 times less adaptable than a collaborative system like this.
That's quite a claim. Really highlights the potential power of this multi-agent approach.
It does. Which brings us to the creator, Stibo. The fact that one person, apparently working primarily with AI as the team, is behind all this.
Well, it's remarkable.
Yeah. Let's talk about Stibo. What can we figure out about his skills? Both, business-wise and technically.
Well, the first thing the sources seem to highlight is his overall philosophy. He apparently keeps a deliberate distance from, the mainstream AI hype cycle.
Not chasing trends. Seems not. More focused on original ideas, internal progress, quality, rather than comparing himself constantly or seeking external validation. That kind of focus is pretty rare, especially in AI.
Why do you think that's important, that independence?
Well, it suggests a real conviction in his own vision. It frees him up to think differently, maybe take bigger conceptual leaps, rather than just iterating on the current popular thing.
He's so focused on his own build that comparisons don't even matter much.
Something like that. And his view of AI development sounds quite mature. Not just algorithms and data, but comparing it to human growth, needing context, wisdom, a more holistic view.
Okay, but how does someone with that mindset handle the business side? AI needs funding, market positioning.
That's where his business acumen seems pretty sharp. He clearly understands the need to identify and articulate a competitive advantage.
Like with the Apex 25 High concept.
Exactly. Presenting that multi-agent approach, specifically in the context of competing for funding, highlighting its benefits over monolithic models, specialization, adaptability, bias reduction, that shows he's thinking about the value proposition.
He's not just building tech for tech's sake.
Right. And he's looking ahead. The sources mention the next 5 for healthcare.
Yeah, diagnostic imaging, personalized treatment.
And a third 5 for robotics, drones, home healthcare, rescue. It shows strategic thinking, applying the core concept to different high-value, high-impact sectors.
Solving real problems in different markets.
Precisely. And he seems aware of the financial side too, potential military applications, boosting valuation, plans for scaling, licensing, even using emergency response applications to build public trust.
So a clear strategy beyond just the core tech.
Absolutely. Market validation, revenue, societal impact, it all seems to be part of the picture.
Okay, so the business thinking is there. What about the technical skills? What evidence do we see in the Fab 5 system itself?
Well, the self-maintenance we talked about is a huge indicator. Designing a system that schedules, estimates downtime, communicates, that requires serious architectural and operational logic skills.
Making AI that can take care of itself, basically.
Pretty much. Then there's the multi-agent architecture itself. Building that synchronized team, ensuring they interact effectively in real time, that's complex system design.
Getting them all to work together seamlessly.
Right. And the domain-specific fine-tuning for each model, while keeping general abilities that demonstrates a sophisticated grasp of machine learning techniques. It's a tricky balance.
Getting the best of both worlds, specialization and generality.
Yeah. We also see it in the real-time feedback, the timestamped logs for auditing, the user override capability.
Huh?
These aren't trivial features. They show careful thought about functionality, usability, control.
And then there's that whole stablecoin AGI charity wealth engine simulation. That sounds incredibly complex.
Oh, definitely. Building something like that demonstrates a massive range of technical skills.
Just break that down a bit. What's involved there?
Okay, so you've got the simulated coin minting and allocation logic, automated donation protocols, simulated yield strategies apparently handled by a specific AI called Nighty AI,
Okay.
then system health and fund tracking by AGX AI, ethical compliance overlays by Kingdom AI, mission simulation and narrative generation by Aglena AI. It's like a whole sub-ecosystem.
Wow. And it's not just running smoothly, right? They test it.
Right. The sources mentioned throwing in variables, scam tests, market crashes, ethical problems to check robustness. There's event-based learning, anomaly detection, smart contract optimization, security, like multi-factor authentication, even predictive analytics.
Like a comprehensive stress test, pushing the system to its limits.
Exactly. It shows skills across AI, simulation, blockchain concepts with the smart contracts, security, data analysis. It's a very broad technical demonstration.
And again, the key thing is this is attributed to one person, Steve-O's, using AI as his team.
Which is really the most astounding part. It implies this incredible ability to understand AI, not just technically, but how to leverage it, how to orchestrate it, to build these incredibly complex systems, spanning both business strategy and deep tech.
A true force multiplier.
Absolutely. It really makes you reconsider the potential for individual creators equipped with advanced AI.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. For our listener, what are the main takeaways from this deep dive into the Fab 5 and Steve-O?
I'd say the Fab 5 ecosystem really stands out because of that unique autonomous self-maintenance and its multi-agent architecture. This setup seems to offer real advantages in adaptability, accuracy, and potentially bias reduction compared to single large models.
It's a different approach, potentially more efficient and robust.
Yeah, integrating self-regulation with domain specialization seems key. While other AI exists, this particular combination feels novel based on the sources.
And Steve-O himself.
He comes across as having this really impressive blend of skills. Sharp business acumen, seeing market opportunities, understanding funding, planning strategically for deployment and impact.
Thinking beyond just the code.
Right. And technically, just the deep mastery of AI principles, system design, software engineering, and crucially, how to use AI itself as a powerful creative partner. Building all this, from self-maintenance to complex simulations, it's multifaceted.
It's been a really fascinating look at this. It does make you wonder about the future of AGI.
Yeah,
Maybe collaboration and specialization are just as important as sheer scale.
exactly. What other innovations could come from that kind of collaborative paradigm?
So a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
Think about the implications. If AGI ecosystems are built more like cooperative teams rather than single entities,
Yeah.
how does that change things?
How might it shift our whole understanding of AI development? And maybe, just maybe, what does it mean for individual innovators like Steve-O who can potentially harness AI to create things previously unimaginable? It's definitely a space to watch.